Funding for the art show is made possible by Montgomery County Arts and Cultural District and viewers like you. Thank you.
In this edition of the Art Show, we visit artist and musician Michael Bashaw in his Dayton studio.
Usually I'm intrigued by what a sound might be, and so I'll come up with an idea to try to actualize that.
One Dayton public school realizes a dream.
Of the 100 points that we could receive, we received 100 points.
See how one man makes a museum out of a city.
I didn't always blend photography and sculpture and installation work. It's just been an organic process.
And get a rare behind-the-scenes glimpse of the Dayton Ballet. It's all ahead on this edition of The Art Show. Hello, I'm Rodney Veal, and this is The Art Show. Each week, we'll be bringing you unprecedented access to local, regional, and national artists. There are many renowned artists living right here in Dayton, and they do it because they love the art scene Dayton offers, but also because it's affordable. Artists are able to thrive and dedicate their life to their art. One such artist is actually just down the hallway from this studio.
Meet Michael J. Bashaw. Michael is an Emmy-nominated composer, musician, visual artist, and educator. Michael was the recipient of the 2012 Ohio Arts Council Governor's Award in the Individual Artist category. He's become well known for the large-scale welded steel instruments for which he designs and builds.
Years ago, I didn't really want to give up music and I didn't want to give up art, so I found a way to fuse those two. I was inspired by a number of people. Some key figures were Harry Partch, who was a maverick composer who built instruments to accommodate this 43-tone scale that he worked in. I was really inspired by him.
At Mills College in Oakland, California, a revolutionary idea is in the making. Students of the new instruments and composer and designer Harry Partch create weird and unique music on cloud chamber bowls derived from atomic research and a kithara of 72 strings.
If I just played music for a living, I would have to really struggle. Or if I just made sculpture, it would probably be a struggle for me. But the fact that I can combine the two, it keeps it interesting for me, and it also is a way to make a living in both fields, but fusing the two, it's kind of best of both worlds.
Michael's instruments, known as sound sculptures, are played in a variety of ways. Some are mallet instruments, some have strings which are hammered or bowed, while still others are nothing but chimes. These very unique instruments are combined with the more traditional flute, guitar, and hand percussion to create a brand new sound.
I have come up with some ideas and dreams that I end up playing around with and making something out of. Usually I'm intrigued by what a sound might be, and so I'll come up with an idea to try to actualize that. I ask myself, what would happen if I enlarged something that was, a handheld instrument? How would it sound if it's 10 feet tall instead of something you hold in your hands? What if it's made out of metal instead of wood, or a gourd or something? And then I go about experimenting and try to figure something out and make it look interesting and evocative, and also something that you feel like you really want to play. And originally, when I started making musical sculptures, I wasn't so much thinking about doing performances with them, but I was interested in creating things that other people could play, that it's something I could put out in public and maybe along a riverbank or in a park somewhere, and people could come up and make music together. You know, people who may be total strangers might be able to have some kind of conversation.
Bashaw's sound sculpture concerts, called Theater of Sound, are engaging, a provocative blend of sound, movement, and theater, aspiring as much to ritual as to entertainment. Audience members often describe the concert experience as uplifting, even healing.
It's great when you're playing with other musicians, and it doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it's the best feeling when it's almost like you're on automatic pilot. Everybody's there together, and you get a sense of the whole room lifting up, you know, and you're doing it, you know, you're doing it, you're creating it, but the audience is also helping to create that feeling. And that's the best. That's what you go for.
Not all of Michael's sculptures are musical, and many of them have been commissioned for national projects, but there are quite a few right here in the Miami Valley.
I can't see spending a lot of time on something I really don't have a lot of juice for, so I've got to get excited about the idea. And even if it's a commission, I don't just make something and fabricate something for money. I've got to feel good about it. I'll have an idea, I'll focus on something, I'll start playing with it, and then I'll rest a little while with it, and know that some other part has to come along and join up with the rest of what I've started. So I'll go about my day, I may find something in the street that I include in a piece, and I'll have happy surprises, and it'll go a whole other direction from what I originally intended. Even if I do a lot of drawings first, as I start working on something, it may take on a life of its own, and I may go in a direction that I really hadn't anticipated. So it's always fun allowing for that to happen. Can't be too rigid. Got to allow for some play.
In addition to Michael's performances with Theater of Sound, he also performs with his wife Sandy in an ensemble group called Puzzle of Light.
My wife and partner Sandy has been a critical part of this whole equation. Not only has she been supportive of what I do, but she has added so much to this ensemble, to the compositions that we've created over the years. She's a really fine songwriter. That's all played into Puzzle of Light as well. Improvisation is a big part of what I do. And so I think there's something appealing about that coming from medieval music and jazz. And then music from other places. I've always been intrigued by different sonic palettes. And you listen to music from around the globe, and there are sounds that are just amazing. And I always wonder, how did they make that sound? What is that instrument like? How is it played? And that's kind of a big influence on me.
For nearly 35 years, Michael has forged a life of music, building and designing. He made a decision to make art his livelihood, and luckily for us, he's never looked back.
Like Puzzle of Light's Facebook page to keep up with performance dates, or log on to puzzleoflight.com for more information on the ensemble and Theater of Sound. The New York City Jazz Festival is the pinnacle of festivals for young musicians. Jazz bands and vocal ensembles collaborate with professionals and perform at an iconic jazz venue in Manhattan. One local high school jazz orchestra exceeded even their own expectations on the stage of Lincoln Center.
What does it take to get to Lincoln Center? Practice, practice, and more practice. The New York City Jazz Festival is considered one of the top festivals in the country for high school and college ensembles. By invitation only, they come from across the nation to showcase their talents. Very few high school jazz orchestras get there. In fact, very few can ever say they have played in the Allen Room, home of jazz at Lincoln Center. However, one Dayton public school can, the Stivers Jazz Orchestra.
The judges had wonderful things to say about our group. Of the 100 points that we could receive from both judges, we received 100 points. It was a great experience. I don't think I've ever taken so long to walk off the stage as I did in New York.
and it looked right over Central Park. That was really cool. So yeah, it was really fun, and I heard a lot of great music while I was there too.
We stayed after school like every day. We would be here until like 6 sometimes, but it paid off. It was great.
Well, they're wonderful. I mean, it's like it's very impressive, you know, that they're all serious. They play really well together. It's a team, and no, I think it's quite remarkable.
Our group's success is important to Dayton because we did it. We made it happen. And now, after having this experience, we can now say, this is something that is possible.
Stivers School for the Arts is part of the Dayton Public School system. A magnet school for the arts, it consists of 8 concentrations: dance, visual arts, creative writing, theater, piano, vocal, orchestra, band, and jazz orchestra. The experience begins in 7th grade and doesn't end until graduation.
Stivers is just a thriving, urban experiment that's working. It works because we have lots of safety nets for kids. So when kids come to Stivers, they kind of build community within their grade level and also within their art magnet area. It's very hard for kids to get lost and to slip under the radar here. It's a place where kids can freely express themselves through their art, where there is creativity, where kids celebrate each other's gifts.
You're encouraged to do what you love and to be the best at it. And I just love Stivers.
No matter where you come from, if you're given the right stimulation and you're given the right education, the right instructor, and the right group of kids, you can reach for the stars.
I think Stivers goes about creating a successful student because it gives them a well-rounded environment to work in. Not only the arts, but their studies as far as math, science, English. Those kids that are there studying those different areas, they understand that, hey, well, maybe I can apply this ideal from my art class, my music class, to math. And it helps the child to grow.
I had fabulous teachers. The staff at Stivers is fabulous in the academic and the arts. And I think my academic teachers were superb. And they really pushed me and they really supported me.
Stivers prepared me for success later in life, for when I went to college, for when I went out into the work world and had to work with different people. It had more than just one role, not just a musical role.
We've come to think that, you know, reading, writing, and arithmetic is what the kids need to know to be successful. When the belt gets tight, the arts are one of the first things that go. And the sad thing is those are things that truly engage students, that connect them to one another, connect them to their schools.
I would definitely say that education is more than just learning how to take a test.
The Stivers Jazz Orchestra has reached the pinnacle, playing at Lincoln Center. Their performance followed 3 successive first-place finishes at Boston's Berklee College of Music's High School Jazz Festival. Other Stivers students have achieved national recognition. The Stivers dancers were featured performers at Philadelphia's 2011 National High School Dance Festival. Stivers Theater Department proudly represented Ohio at the National Thespian Festival. And for 3 years running, Stivers visual artists have been flown to Miami to exhibit their art at Young Arts Week, a national celebration of our nation's top visual and performing arts students.
I think it's not only important in Dayton, but across the country. We find that the top CEOs in major corporations and companies today really are looking for students that have backgrounds in the arts, because it's that innovative thinking, that ability to apply abstract information that makes the difference in anything that we do. One of the reasons why I adore working with children is because they don't set limitations. They believe they can do anything. And when you give them the opportunities to explore their creative voice, they know with confidence and courage that all things are possible.
These students are super talented. If you're interested in supporting or attending Stivers School for the Arts, visit stivers.org. Although it is a Dayton public school, you must audition in one of the 9 disciplines for acceptance.
Are you an artist or know an artist with an interesting story? Pitch it to us. Send an email to theartshow@thinktv.org. Include contact information and links to performances or art samples online.
Scott Hawking has found art in abandonment. A Detroit native and an explorer of vacant spaces, he's transformed the city with creativity and provides a new perspective on its economic future.
I think that growing up with pretty stereotypical working class family impression of Detroit, there was a lot of negativity, there was a lot of seeing Detroit as a sad place. But I think as an artistic person, as a creative person, you can come through Detroit and you don't see the negative things, you see opportunity, you see potential, you see transition, you see a city in transition and maybe on a threshold of some new experience. So I think artistic people will find opportunity, they have creativity to make something out of nothing. I think that maybe the art process and just being an artist has a lot of qualities that I really like. Working on projects for me is very meditative. It's kind of my solace. It's my peaceful time is when I can work on site, whether it's in the studio or in a gallery or museum or even in an abandoned building. I've been exploring vacant and unused spaces for most of my life. Since I was a kid, I grew up by the railroad tracks and I would hike on the railroad tracks, and that would take me to kind of abandoned factories, and I just really started exploring all through my childhood into adulthood at these places. One of the reasons I'm attracted to being in Detroit is because nature has kind of started to reclaim territory here. I think there might be, I don't think it's just me, I think there might be a real longing for this kind of wilderness. There might even be a longing for the age of discovery, like a longing for a time when you could find places that hadn't been found yet. And we kind of know that that's all gone. So I think that there's a part of me that really wants to try and not only find that feeling again, but maybe create that feeling so people can discover the pieces I'm working on. I didn't always blend photography and sculpture and installation work. It's just been an organic process. Building sculptures on site, that probably started about 10 years ago. And through the last 10 years, I've transitioned into not only building sculptures site-specifically, but needing to document that whole process so that other people could see it. The thing that I really love about exhibiting artwork is that you can make connections with people. I love how everyone has a different perspective on things. Everyone comes from such a different place and sees things from a different angle. And I think maybe that might be getting to the crux of it, is that I love learning. I'm usually interested in making an art piece that speaks to a greater idea about this happening everywhere, about trash and humans abandoning things and humans wasting things, more than I am talking about just Detroit's version of that. A lot of the abandoned buildings I work in Detroit are abandoned and left that way because they're in places where people can kind of get away with it. They can just leave the building to go to waste. And so, yeah, there is a part of me that is interested in working in spaces that will draw attention to something which I feel like I might think needs to be changed. So I think there are ways where I've done work that is recycling wasted materials or using spaces that seem to be neglected or that people look at as negative. I decided I would use that material to make sculptures and, in essence, in some small way, be cleaning up the trash that was dumped in these areas. So, for instance, I made this pyramid out of tires, and that was all tires that I would find dumped throughout the city. The history of Detroit comes up a lot because I've grown up here, but one of the things I think I say pretty consistently is that people often talk about Detroit in the last 100 years. They see what happened at the birth of the automobile, and they see where we are now, and this is their microcosmic viewpoint of the history of Detroit, but it's so incomplete. When someone comes to a city like Detroit and sees decay and abandonment and things falling apart, nature reclaiming things, I think that people can see that as a failure. They can see that from a nostalgic viewpoint of what used to be versus what's now. But for me, I see it as a natural cycle. We are a part of that. Everything that we've made is a part of that. Everything that has ever existed is a part of that. We're always transitioning. We're always evolving. We're always dying. And I don't know if everyone likes to think of that. Sometimes we want to remove ourselves from that, like somehow we're not a part of that. But we are, and to me, there's something beautiful in that, and I think that it's almost an exercise for me to accept it by working with that all the time. I'm kind of becoming good with it too. Over the years, I find it really the most intriguing thing. So this idea that somehow the city is, I don't know, hit some point where it's done, to me is kind of ridiculous. The fact is that this is still a pretty interesting place to live, and it will transition into something else. It just isn't going to be the same thing forever. It never has been the same thing. It always transitions.
To view more of Hocking's art, visit scotthocking.com. Finally, tonight, we give you a very rare behind-the-scenes look at one of the oldest professional arts companies in Dayton, the Dayton Ballet.
It's been a tough few years, but some people here still believe there's a place for beauty, grace, poetry without words. But what would this town know about beauty? More than you might imagine. (1937). Two sisters, one dream. Josephine and Hermine Schwartz built this house of dance that endures today. Dayton Ballet is the second oldest regional ballet company in America. Committed to presenting new works, it's nationally known as the Company of Premieres. At its core is a commitment to dance education, training, and outreach. And, of course, a passion for excellence. When words fail, when passions explode, when the story is timeless, there's still a place you can feel the power of the dance.
And that wraps it up for this edition of The Art Show. You can see there's so much talent in this city. Get out there and support it. Until next time, I'm Rodney Veal, and thanks for watching.
Funding for the Art Show is made possible by Montgomery County Arts and Cultural District and viewers like you. Thank you.